We will discuss module 2 from today onwards. Fine. So, module 2 is all about instruction set. Okay, so ARM Cortex M3 instruction sets and program. So here we will, in the previous modules, we discussed about basic of ARM controller, okay, or microprocessors or whatever you can call it. So we saw about how many registers it has, how many special registers it has. Okay. So how much memory it has and how the memory is divided. So what are the various buses? Okay, and what is the reset sequence? So what is NVIC? Okay, everything we saw in module 1. So in module 2, what we'll do is we will learn about the instructions, okay, that are available for Cortex M3, so that using those instructions you can command the Cortex M3 processor or controller to do a particular job. Okay, so that is what is the ultimate goal. So using use a processor to do a job. So how to use a processor? You have to give some instructions to it. Okay, you cannot give any instructions to it because it will understand only the instructions that are programmed to be understood by it. Okay, that's all. So for every processor or controller, there is a separate instruction set. Okay, so for Cortex M3, there is a separate instruction set. For 8051, there is separate instruction set. Okay, so for ARM7, there is separate instruction set. Okay, and that particular processor or controller will only understand the instruction set that is supported by it. Okay, you cannot use an instruction of 8051 to ARM Cortex M3 and tell it to do something. Okay, tell it to add two numbers, subtract two numbers. No, because it will not understand. It will understand only the language that is programmed to be understood by it. Okay, and that language is particular instruction set of that particular processor. Okay, so think instruction set as a language that particular processor or controller understands. Okay, so Cortex M3 has its own instruction set, and we know that it is thumb 2. It will support thumb 2 instructions. Okay, so and if you remember, so this thumb 2, okay, so thumb 2, which is in short known as T2, thumb 2. So it contains, okay, it contains two types of instructions. One is 16-bit instructions, and one more is 32-bit instructions. 32-bit instruction. Now the question is, so what do you mean by 16-bit instruction and what do you mean by 32-bit instruction? Okay, so I'll give an example. Let's say, so this is only an example. I'm talking about, I'll explain what do you mean by a 16-bit instruction and what do you mean by 32-bit instruction. So move, let's say A comma B. So this is the assembly instruction. Okay, so let's say it is of 8051. Fine. So it is a 8-bit, sorry, it is a 8051 instruction move A comma B. So understand that, see, this move A comma B will not be understood by the processor or the controller. Okay, why? Because the processor only understands ones and zeros. So whatever you have to communicate with the processor, you have to do that in ones and zeros. But it is very difficult to communicate with the processor in ones and zeros because we do not understand ones and zeros. The processor understands it, but we do not understand ones and zeros. Okay, or we'll have to put more effort to understand ones and zeros. So that is why we invented what is known as assembly language. Okay, so this assembly language is a pseudo English like language. Okay, it is pseudo English language. You can see this is pseudo language. So it is not exactly English because we know the spelling for move. It is MOVE. Okay, but it is MOV here. So it is, as I told, pseudo English language. So it is in English like language. Why this was invented was to make the programming easy to understand by the programmer. Okay, so once you write whatever you want to write in assembly, that is the instructions for the processor, so there will be a software that will convert this assembly to ones and zeros. So ones and zeros is known as machine level language. Okay, it is known as machine level language. Machine language. Okay, so there is a software that will take care of it. So to make the programming easy to understand by the programmer, so assembly was invented. Okay, and ultimately whatever you write in assembly will be converted to machine language only. Okay, so that is the goal. So now if you write this move a comma b, so that will not be understood by the processor. So hence a software, okay, known as a compiler, okay, so it will convert this move a comma b into ones and zeros. Okay, it will convert it to ones and zeros. So example, I'll give it. So let's say it will be converted to 1100. Okay. There's some software problem. So bear with me. Yeah, so one moment. Yeah, so this assembly level program, so what I just told, I'll write it here. Let's say. Yeah, so example we had taken was move a comma b. Okay, so this should be converted to assembly now. So how to convert this to assembly? So a software known as compiler will take care of that. I told that. So now, so let's say this move a comma b will be converted to the machine level language. Okay, machine level language. Okay, which will consist of ones and zeros. That will be understood by the processor. Let's say this will be converted to 1100. Okay, so 0010. So this is the conversion done by the software known as compiler for this particular machine level language. Sorry, for the assembly code you have written. So assembly instruction you have written is move a comma b. Okay. So you can see here. So how many bits are these? The converted code. So once assembly is converted to the machine level, so this instruction move a comma b is converted to how many bit code here? So it is, if you see it properly, it is a 4-bit code. Sorry, 8-bit code. It is a 8-bit code. Okay, so it's a 8-bit code. 11000010. It is a 8-bit code. Okay, so that is why we call this instruction move a comma b as a 8-bit instruction. We call it as a 8-bit instruction. Okay, so similarly, so if you take the example of the 16-bit and 32-bit instructions, so that we all discussed. So why do we call it as a 32-bit instruction? Why? Because so once you convert it to assembly level language, okay, once you convert it to assembly level language, it will be converted to a 16-bit code word, similar to this. So move a comma b, it is converted to 8-bit code, okay, because it is a 8-bit instruction. So in 8051, so whatever the instruction you write in assembly, it will be converted to a 8-bit code word. Okay, 8-bit machine level code. So that is why these instructions are known as 8-bit instruction. If the same instruction is converted to a 16-bit code, 16-bit machine code, then that instruction is known as 16-bit instruction. Okay, and if the same assembly instruction is converted to a 32-bit machine level code, okay, so 32-bit code, so then it is said to be a 32-bit instruction. Okay, so if it is called a 16-bit instruction, then the number of bits, okay, that each instruction is represented will be equal to 16 bits. Okay, and if it is a 32-bit instruction, that means the number of bits that are used to represent an assembly instruction in machine level is equal to 32 bits. So hope we are getting what do you mean by a 16-bit and a 32-bit instruction. Okay, so this is what we mean by 16-bit and 32-bit instruction. Right. So with this basic, so we shall jump to understanding. So what is the assembly instructions? Okay, see, usually the languages are classified into three types. So one is machine level language, so as indicated here, machine level. Next is assembly language, which is above machine level, and next is high level language. Okay, so this is what is the you can say arrangement of the languages. So machine level language, as I told, it is ones and zeros. Assembly language is pseudo English language, so it is not exactly English, but somewhat like English. But coming to high level language, so example for high level language is C, C++, okay, Java, Python. So those are high level languages which are almost English like. Okay, so majority is English like, and it is very easy to understand by the programmer. Okay, so you can see here as you move from the bottom to top. Okay, so that is from machine level language to high level language. So you can see ease of implementation increases, flexibility increases, and portability increases. Okay, so it is very easy to understand whatever the code you write if you write it in high level language. Okay, and it will be flexible and it will be portable. Portable in the sense the same code you can use it to the same high level language code that you have written. You can use that code to run that code on Cortex M3, okay, as well as 8051, as well as some other processor, because this high level language, they are not machine dependent. Okay, they are not device dependent languages. C, C++, okay, Java, they are not device dependent languages. So they can run on a PC with Intel processors. They can run on a PC with AMD processors also. Okay, so that is they are device independent languages, high level languages. Okay, but machine level language is not device independent. It is purely device dependent. Okay, so the code that you write in assembly and machine level language, they are purely device dependent because they will run only on that particular device. Okay, and here as you move from top to bottom. So what are the advantages? If you write the code in machine language or assembly language, speed of execution is increases, then code density increases, machine specific uh, code will be written. Okay, so that is what will happen if you go from top to bottom. Okay, so machine level language is machine specific. You can see that assembly and machine level language, they are machine specific or device specific. They work on a particular device only. Okay, it is not easy to port. Assembly code that you write or machine level language code that you write, it is not easy to port because that will be only supported for that particular device. Let's say Cortex M3 or a 8051. Okay, but high level languages can be easily portable. Why? Because they are not device dependent. Fine, they are not device dependent. So they will run on a system as I told with Intel processors as well as AMD processors or on a Cortex M3 processor also. Okay, so the job of converting high level language to machine level language will be taken care by a software known as compiler. Okay, so the compilers are very strong today. Okay, so which will do the conversion in a optimized way so that the high level language that you write, it will be converted to that particular specific machine level language. So that is taken care by the compiler. Okay. So same thing is explained here, machine language, assembly language. Okay, so you can see machine language instructions are written in binary patterns. So that is ones and zeros. Okay. In assembly language, so it is here. In the next level language is assembly, since so it is a pseudo English representation of machine language. Okay. So it is a combination of English like words called mnemonics and hexadecimal codes. Okay, so what they are called as mnemonics. English like words are called as mnemonics. So next comes the high level language. So that means you need not worry about the architecture or internal details of the controller. Okay, so you need not worry about how many registers are there. Okay, so what is the width of the register, 32-bit or 16-bit? No need to worry whenever you write the code in high level language, because it is machine independent code that you write. So they use words and statements easily understood by the humans. So which are the examples? C, C++, Java. Okay, they are machine independent high level languages. Okay, so now we'll talk about what is assembly language. Okay, so what is assembly language, and what is this? What is its syntax? So you can see this is the syntax here. So it will start with the label. It is optional label and followed by instructions. Okay, and you can add the comments. Okay, so comments are only for the understanding of the programmer. Why? Because see, whenever you program the code and suppose you leave that particular company, okay, you change the company. So whatever the code you have written, that should be understood by the newcomer that who will open that code. Okay, so how he will understand? By seeing the comments. So you have to write the comments as in, so why you have used this instruction. Okay, so what this instruction will do. If you write that comment, so it is easy for the other person who comes in and who will try to understand your code. Okay, so it will consist of, so this is a syntax of assembly language. Okay, syntax of assembly language, it will consist of a label which is optional. Okay, next followed by instruction. So instruction will contain the mnemonic as well as the operands. Okay, instruction will contain mnemonics and operands. What is mnemonic? It is English like instruction that we use. Okay, then comment. So comments is optional, but it is very helpful and very good practice of writing comments for each and every line in assembly. Okay, as well as high level language also, because whoever is seeing your code, those people have to understand why you have written that particular line or instruction. Okay, so an example is given here. You can see test label. So this is the label followed by followed by a colon. So this is optional as I told. So every instruction need not have a label. Fine. Followed by, you can see instruction. So this is the instruction. Okay. So if you remember, so label followed by the instruction. This is the instruction. So I told instruction will have a mnemonic and operands. So which is the mnemonic here? MOV. This is the mnemonic. Okay. ADD is a mnemonic. Okay. ADC is a mnemonic. So this is a mnemonic followed by operands. So which are the operands? Accumulator A followed by the data 24H, which is hexadecimal value. Okay. And the comment. So in assembly, usually comment is added using a semicolon. Okay. So whatever you write after the semicolon, that is treated as comment. So it will not be compiled. Okay. Or it will not be executed. It is only for user understanding. That's all. You can see this is a sample comment. So this is the comment. Okay. So you can see here. So how this instruction is split. So test label. This is the label. Okay. Which is optional. Every instruction need not have the label. Next followed by the instruction. So instruction has two parts. One is the mnemonic MOV and next are the operands. Okay, A, 24H. These are the operands. So the operand can be a single operand, multiple operands. Okay, both are allowed. And next followed by the comment. Okay. So here label. So what is this label? Label programmer. So the label is a programmer chosen name for memory location or a statement in the program. So it is chosen by the programmer. Okay, and the name that you choose, it should not be a keyword. Okay, the name you choose for the label, it should not be a keyword. So what do you mean by a keyword? See, MOV is a keyword. Okay, MOV is a keyword. So you cannot use MOV as a label again. No, you should not use MOV as a label because it is already a keyword, because it means something to the processor already. So you cannot use that name, which is a keyword, which is an instruction already, as a label. So the label name should not be keyword. Okay. So the label part of the statement is optional. So as I told, it is optional. And if present, the label must be terminated with a colon. Okay. So that is what. So label followed by a colon. So every instruction need not have a label. So now coming to instruction. So what are the parts of an instruction? Instruction will have two parts, as I told. So one is opcode followed by operands. So opcode means what you are trying to do, whether you are trying to move, whether you are trying to add, whether you are trying to subtract, whether you are trying to multiply. That is what is the opcode. Okay. Next followed by operand. So on what are you trying to do the operation? So that is nothing but the operands. Okay. So whether you're trying to add two numbers, which are those two numbers? Which are those two numbers? Okay. So those are the operands. Okay. So, and this is the command, move 22H to accumulator. So this is the command because see semicolon. After the semicolon, whatever you write, that will be taken as command. Okay. So we'll see a sample example now. You can see a sample example here. So hope it is visible. So you can see the sample 8051 code. Okay, it is 8051 code to blink a LED. Okay, and it is written in assembly language. Okay, so you can see it starts with org00. That is, the program starts with this particular address 00. Okay, so assembly starts from this address 00. So and main program starts here. So this is a command. You can see semicolon followed by a statement. It is a comment. Okay, it will not be compiled or it will not be executed. So next you can see the instruction which has a label start. So start semicolon is a label. Sorry, colon. Start colon is a label. Okay, followed by the instruction move P1 comma hash 0xFF. So it is a hexadecimal number you are trying to move to P1 port 1. So if you remember in 8051, we have ports P1, P2, P3, P0, P1, P2, P3. So totally 4 ports are there. Okay. So port 1, you are trying to move some immediate data. Okay. So start colon. So followed by instruction. So there is a label as well as instruction. Okay. So in this instruction, this is the opcode MOV, and which are the operands P1 followed by the immediate data. These are the operands. Okay. Then call wait. So this is one more instruction. So you are calling a function or an instruction, okay, whose label is wait. Okay, so you are directly jumping from here to a particular label of an instruction known as wait. So where is wait? You can see wait here. Wait is here. Okay, so this is why the labels are used. So the labels will, you can say, label the address of an instruction. They will label or identify the address of an instruction so that you can use those labels to change the program flow. So from here, you can see you're directly jumping to this instruction. Okay. So how it was possible? Because you have used the label here. So as soon as you execute this instruction, call wait, immediately the instruction, so the execution will jump from this instruction to this label. So the address of this label. So wherever the address is pointing by this label, so there the instruction, the execution will jump. So in this case, it will jump to this location, which is, let's say, location 10. Okay, so location 10. So directly it will jump here and it will do some instruction. So move R2 comma hash 10. Okay. So, and you can see here, not all the instructions have labels. Okay, as I told, not all the instructions will have label. Labels are optional and it is user defined. Okay, so we can see one more label here, wait 1, then wait 2. Okay, so these are labels. Okay, and these are instructions, call, move, okay, CPL, then move, then call again. So S jump, okay, short jump. S jump means short jump. then again move. So next D and J, Z. Okay, decrement, 0, decrement and jump if no 0. That is what is this is instruction. J N, sorry, J Z, J G N Z. Okay, like that. So this is an sample example. That's all. Fine. So this is how assembly looks like, and this is what we will discuss now. Okay, this was a brief introduction to assembly language. Okay, and as well as what is the syntax of it. Okay, so because before knowing this, okay, so before knowing how the instructions look in assembly, so we will not be able to understand what we are trying to do in the ARM Cortex M3. So with this basics, we shall go to the assembly language supported by Cortex M3, which are the instructions that Cortex M3 supports. Okay, so ARM Cortex M3 instructions. So instruction sets. So assembler language basic syntax. So what is basic syntax? So we just saw the basic syntax. So here the syntax is label. So again, label is optional as I told, followed by opcode. Okay, so this part is the instruction. From here to here, it is instruction. Okay, so label followed by opcode. Sorry, followed by label followed by instruction followed by comments. So after semicolon, whatever right is comment. So that is what we just saw. Okay. So this instruction part we will have two parts. Instruction will have two parts. One is opcode followed by operands. So as I told, operands can be a single operand or multiple operands also. Okay. So here in Cortex M3, see the first operand is the destination. Okay. So the first operand is the destination. Okay, and the number of operands depends on the instruction type. Okay, so the number of operands can be 1, 2, or 3 depending on the instruction that we are trying to execute. So we'll come to know that. Okay, but remember, whatever the first operand, that is this one, usually this will be the destination. Okay, destination. The example is given here. Move R0, hash 0x12. Okay, so you are trying to move this data, immediate data, which is hexadecimal data, to this register R0. So, and we know there are registers R0 to R15 in Cortex M3, and each register is of 32 bits. Okay, the capacity is of 32 bits. So now we are trying to move an immediate data, which is hexadecimal data. So how many bits is this hexadecimal data? Can anyone tell me? 0x12. How many bits is this? How many bits is this? 0x12.
32 bits.
No, it is not 32 bit. It is 8 bits. Okay. See how you represent these 0x12. See, you have to represent 1, right? So how you have to represent 1, you will use 4 bits. So 0, 0, 0, 1. So this is 1 actually. Okay, this is 1. Followed by 2. So to represent 2 again, it is 4 bits. 0, 0, 1, 0. So this is 2. Okay. So this is how you represent this hexadecimal value. So it is 0x12 means, so totally it is how many bits? 8 bits. That's all. Okay, 8 bits. So you are trying to move 8 bits of immediate data to a register of 32 bits. Okay, which is fine, no problem. Okay, because the maximum capacity is 32 bits, you are trying to load 8 bits, which is fine. You can do that. Okay, so next possibility is you can load 16 bits to R0. That is also possible. 16 bits is also possible. Okay, so next possibility is 32 bits. So that is also possible. So in this case, we are moving 8 bits of data to R0, immediate data. Okay, and you can see in this instruction, there is no label because as I told, label is optional. All the instructions need not have labels. So no label here. So next instruction is move R1, hash. So within single quotes, it is capital A. So whenever you use within single quotes a particular alphabet, then the ASCII value of this character will be moved to R1. So you can say here set R1 equal to, that is, so R1 will be loaded with ASCII value of capital A. Okay, so you already are familiar with ASCII values of all the characters, including numbers and special characters. Okay, if someone has forgotten, please Google it and check out. Okay, see, whatever the numbers that we communicate with the processor or the controller, the letters you press, the numbers, the special characters you press using the keyboard, that will be communicated to the processor with this value only, with ASCII values only. Okay, so because it is a standard value throughout the world. Okay, so capital A, the ASCII value, I think capital A is 64. Okay, so I don't exactly remember it, but I think it is 64. So this is true all over the world. Capital A ASCII value 64, and it is a standard, it is accepted all over the world. Okay, so that is why the computers that are manufactured in America or in UK can be used in India. Okay, why? Because everyone knows that capital A means 64, and whether it is UK or India or America. Okay, so they keep this in standard in mind, and they write the softwares so that they can work anywhere in the world. Okay, so this is one of the standard. So the text after the semicolon. Okay, so that is this after the semicolon. So whatever you have written, it is the command. So we know that. Okay, so these commands do not affect the program operation. Okay, but they can make the programs easier for humans to understand. So that is the use of the comments. Okay, so one more example here is, you can see here. So you are equating, or you are creating a constant, or you are creating or defining a constant. So what is that? See, NVIC underscore IRQ underscore SETEN 0. So this variable, okay, so this variable will be equated to the value 0x E 000 E1 00. So this variable, or whatever the constant you have defined, the value of this constant is 0x E000 E1 00, because you equated that to that value. So EQU defines a constant. Okay. So now can anyone tell me how many bits is this hexadecimal value? How many bits is this hexadecimal value? How many bits is this hexadecimal value that we are seeing here?
32 bits.
Yeah, it is 32 bits, correct? See how it is 32 bits. So again, since it is hexadecimal value, each character will be represented using 4 bits in binary. Okay, so this E, capital E, in binary you can write it as 1110. So this is capital E. Okay, followed by the 0. So 0, so as I told, each character, it will be represented using 4 bits in binary, from hexadecimal to binary. That is how you convert. Okay, these conversions you already know. So this is 0. Okay, so E is 0, then one more 0 is there. So for that again 4 zeros. So 0 0 0 0. Okay, so then followed by one more 0 is there. So for that again 4 zeros. Fine. So this is E followed by 0 0 0. So for these 4 characters, how many bits you have used? 4, 8, 12, 16. So totally 16 bits are over here. Okay, so this is 16 bits. Followed by, so remaining 4 are there. So again E is there. So for that E, so it is 1 1 1 0. Okay, so this is E. Okay, followed by 1. So 1 will be represented using 4 bits. So 0 0 0 1. So this is 1. Okay, followed by 0. So 4 zeros for that. So 0 0 0 0. This is 0. Followed by one more 0. So 0 0 0 0. This is 0. Okay. So this is again 16 bits. Totally, it is a 32-bit value. So this is very important from now onwards because we will talk about hexadecimal values, okay, and how to represent them. You should know. Okay, so I'll not repeat this time and again. Fine. So totally, it's a 32-bit value. Next. So again, you are equating some variable or constant NVIC underscore IRQ0 underscore enable. Okay, and this will be equal to 0x1. Okay, 0x1. So how many bits is this? It's again hexadecimal value. How many bits is this? 0x1?
4 bits.
Yeah, it is 4 bits. Yes, correct. It is 4 bits. So this 1 is represented as 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, 4 bits. Right? So you equated these values, these variables, which are known as constants, to these values. Okay. So next in the program, whenever you use this variable, NVIC underscore IRQ underscore SETEN0. Whenever you use this variable anywhere in the program, in this particular program, that means you are referring to this value. Okay, you are indirectly referring to this value E000, E100. Okay, so you can see that here. Okay, and then whenever you're using this variable IRQ0 underscore enable, that means you are referring to this value 0x1. Okay, so that is the use of the constants. So because they are used in a regular basis in the program, so they are declared as constants, and you can use the constants in the program, in that particular program. Okay, so this is one more example. So DCI, like that. Okay, so again you can see one more example here. We shall see what do you mean by LDR later, but time being, remember that these are assembly codes and these are supported by ARM Cortex M3. Okay, so R3, and you can see here LDR R4 comma within bracket R3. So what do you mean by this? Which is this addressing mode? Which is this addressing mode? Can anyone tell me which is this addressing mode used? Within brackets R3. See, again, addressing modes are important. Okay, so you already studied it. Please go through it once again. Okay, Google them. Okay, so Google them so that you will come to know what are the addressing modes. Okay, what are the addressing modes? Because they are important, because without knowing addressing mode, you will not be able to understand the instruction. Okay. Yeah. So this is define constant data. So you're defining constant data here. Okay, and you are defining constant byte. Hello. Okay. /n. So next we'll talk about is use of suffixes. See, there are two concepts: prefix and suffix. See, suffix means after, and prefix means before. So you know this already in English. Okay. So prefix means before the word, and suffix means after the word. Okay. So example I'll take here. So let's say the instruction is add A D D. Okay. Add, let's say, R0 comma R1. This is the instruction supported by Cortex M3. Add R0 comma R1. Very simple. You're trying to add R0 and R1, and the result will be stored in R0. See, remember, the first operand will be the destination in Cortex M3. Okay, so that is what we discussed. Usually, the first operand is the destination. So once you add R0 with R1, the result is stored back in R0. Okay, so if you write the description for this, so it is semicolon. Okay, this is the command. So R0 is equal to R0 plus R1. See, the instructions are very important because in examination, so some instruction will be given. So they will ask you for the output. So what is the output after execution of these instructions? You have to write the output. Okay, so it can be asked more 4 to 5 marks. Okay, don't neglect the instructions. So now we'll use this use of suffixes. Okay, in assembler of ARM processors, instructions can be followed by suffixes. Okay, so once you write the instruction, so example is add. So add can be followed by suffixes. So what are those suffixes? We shall see. So for Cortex M3, conditional execution suffixes are usually used for branch instructions. Okay. So however, other instructions can also be used with conditional execution suffixes if they are inside if then instruction block. So don't worry of this if then instruction. We will discuss in detail about this. Okay, whenever we encounter it. In most cases, the S suffix, the S suffix and the conditional execution suffixes can be used at the same time. So 15 conditional choices are available. So which are those suffixes? Let's see. So one suffix is yes. Okay, that is, so after the instruction add, so I can insert a suffix yes. Okay, so then this will become add yes R0, R1. So what do you mean by add yes? Okay, and what will happen if you don't add this suffix? Okay, so what is the use of yes here? So if you use this suffix yes after the instruction, that means update the APSR, application program status register. So we already know what is the APSR. Okay, so it will consist of all the flags. Okay, so if you want to update this APSR after the completion of this instruction, after completion of add R0, R1, if you want to update the flags, okay, then what you have to do, you have to include this suffix yes. Okay, so if you don't include this suffix, what will happen? If you just write add R0, R1, then this APSR or the flags will not be updated after the completion of this instruction add R0, R1. Okay, that is the use of the suffix. Okay, reading this, so like that. So there are other suffixes like EQ, it is equal, NU not equal, LT less than, GT greater than. Okay, so then so on. So there are others also, so we shall see them later. So one example is given here, BEQ, okay, followed by the label. So what do you mean by this is branch, okay, to this label, branch to the label given here, okay, only if it is equal, EQ, that is only if the equal flag is set. So equal flag will be set or the zero flag will be set. Okay, so equality is usually found using zero flag. Okay, so if zero flag is set, then branch to this label. If zero flag is not set, then don't branch. That is the meaning of this BEQ. Okay, fine. So next we'll talk about unified assembler language. See, I'm going slow. Why? Because see, these are the basics. Without this, we will not understand the remaining instructions. Okay. See, and one more thing, this is a huge module. Module T2 is very huge. Okay, so you can see the number of pages here. 85 pages are there. Okay, so it is a huge module, but we shall go slow. Okay, initially. So unified assembler language. So what do you mean by unified assembler language? See, to support and get best out of thumb 2 instruction set, which is supported by Cortex M3, this unified assembler language was developed, which is also known as UAL. Fine. So why it was developed? To allow selection of 16-bit and 32-bit instructions. Okay, first thing is it will allow you to select the 16-bit and 32-bit instructions. Okay, so in the beginning itself, I told this thumb 2, which is in short denoted as T2, it supports or it has two types of instructions, 16-bit as well as 32-bit. Okay, so I told what do you mean by 16-bit and 32-bit by taking an example, right? It supports both types of instruction set. Okay, 16-bit and 32-bit. So 16-bit means to represent one instruction, you require 16 bits. Okay, and 32-bit means to represent one instruction, you require 32 bits. Okay, and see to select among these instructions. So that is whether you want to select a 16-bit instruction or whether you want to select a 32-bit instruction, you require a option for that. Okay, you require an option or a tool for that. So that tool was invented using this unified assembler language. Okay, so in this language you can explicitly select whether it is a 16-bit instruction you want to use or a 32-bit instruction you want to use. Okay, and one more thing you have to remember. See, I'll give an example. So add, okay, the instruction for add. Okay, so there is a 16-bit version of add as well as there is a 32-bit version of add. Both are there. Okay, so add instruction is available in 16-bit as well as in 32-bit set also, instruction set also. Okay, so you can choose among which instruction you want. Okay, so if you want to use a 16-bit version of the add, then you can choose it using the UAL. So that is why it was invented, so that you can easily select among 16-bit and 32-bit instructions. So if you want to add the 32-bit, or so you want to select the 32-bit version of add, then also you can select that. Okay, we shall see that. So remember, the instructions can be available in both 16-bit and 32-bit. Okay, but it is left to the programmer to select which version he wants to use, whether he wants to use 16-bit version of that instruction or a 32-bit version of that instruction. Okay, see, usually 32-bit versions of the instructions will be more faster. Okay, they will be more faster, 32-bit versions of the instruction, but 16-bit versions, they will be less faster. Okay, so they will be used in less critical jobs, less time critical jobs. Okay, so that is when 16-bit versions are used. But there is an advantage of using 16-bit versions. Okay, what is the advantage is, see, as I told, 16-bit instruction means you require 16 bits to represent that instruction. So suppose add some A comma B you write. So to represent that you require 16 bits of space. Okay, so what if you use 32-bit version of that instruction, then you require 32 bits to represent that instruction. So what is the advantage of using 16 bits? See, instead of wasting 32 bits, you can do the same job in 16 bits if that is convenient. Okay, if it is not time critical, if it is not so much important, you can do the same operation using 16 bits. So what you are doing is you are saving 16 bits. Okay, you are saving 16 bits. So instead of using 32 bits, you are using 16 bits. You have saved 16 bits. So in this 16 bits you have saved, you can add one more instruction of 16 bit. Okay, so it is 16 plus 16. So in 32 bits you can write two instructions if you go for 16-bit versions. Okay, but if you go for 32-bit versions, you can write only one instruction. Okay, so instead of writing two, you can write only one. Okay, like that. So that is the advantage. But 16-bit versions are slow. That is the disadvantage. Okay, yeah. So with UAL, the syntax of thumb instructions is now same as ARM instructions. Okay, so that is, it will make the instruction format common, as well as it will allow you to do more selections. Okay, so selections like you can select, as I told, between 16-bit and 32-bit, or you can select whether you want to update the flags or not. So we just saw that. Okay, by using the suffix yes. Okay, so you have the liberty. Okay, so by using the suffixes like this, you have the liberty to choose whether you want to update the flags or not. Okay, so this can be done only in UAL syntax. Okay, in UAL language syntax. So you can see this is one UAL language syntax. ADD R0, R0, R1. So that is, you are trying to add R0 and R1, and you are trying to store it in R0 back. So it is back to R0. Okay. So now you can see there are three operands here. Three operands. R0, R0, R1. Fine. And this is add. So here. So one thing you need to be careful with reusing the thumb and traditional thumb some instructions is some instructions change flags in APSR. Okay. So even if yes suffix is not used. Okay. However, whenever you use this UAL syntax, that is Unified Assembler Language syntax, so you have the complete control on whether you update the flag or not. So whether the instruction changes the flag depends on the yes suffix. Okay, you can see this is the UAL syntax, wherein you have the complete control. So you are including yes here. That means you are controlling the updation of flags. So yes means you will update the flag, and if you don't use yes, okay, then that means flag is not updated. That's all. So that is why. So go for UAL syntax. Okay. So some other examples you can see. Add yes R0 comma #1. So you use 16-bit thumb instruction for smaller size. So default. Okay. See now, as I told, you can choose between 16-bit and 32-bit instructions. So that is shown here. Example. So here add yes dot n. That means you are using a 16-bit instruction. Okay, as I told, this thumb 2 has 16-bit and 32-bit instructions. Okay, and I told there is a 16-bit version of add as well as 32-bit version of add. So to choose between these two versions, you can use this prefix here, sorry, suffix adds dot n. See, this dot n indicates that you are trying to use a 16-bit version of add. Okay, and here next instruction adds dot w. See, dot w indicates you are trying to use the 32-bit version of add. Okay, so n means narrow, w means wide. So by using the UAL syntax, so you can do this. You can choose between the 16-bit version or the 32-bit version. Okay, so that is what is explained. Dot w specifies 32-bit instruction. Okay, and if no suffix is given, that is if you don't give any w or narrow, so like this, if you just write like this ADDSR, then what will happen? The assembler tool chooses either instruction, but usually defaults to 16-bit instruction. Okay, if you don't specify whether it is .n or .w, then what will happen is the compiler or the assembler tool will usually default to 16-bit because it wants to save space. Okay, it wants to save space, but it is very good practice to explicitly specify it, whether you want a 16-bit version or the 32-bit version. Okay, specify it. Yeah, so next comes the instruction list. So which are the instructions supported by Cortex M3. So now from here you can see there are various tables from table 2.2 to 2.9. So these will talk about all the supported instructions by Cortex M3. So first instruction ADC, add with carry. Okay, ADD is just add. ADR means add PC. Okay, that is program counter and an immediate value and put the result back in the register. Okay, some register ADR. Yes. Next is AND, A-N-D, logical AND. Next is ASR, arithmetic shift right. Okay, so shift right, shift left. Next BIC, bit clear. Okay, CMN, compare negative. Like this, you can see EOR, exclusive OR. Fine. So like this, there are various instructions. Okay, so we cannot discuss all, but we will discuss very few instructions which are very important. Okay, so that we will discuss whenever we encounter that. So this table just explains or gives a brief about each instruction. So LSL, logical shift left, LSR, logical shift right. So move, MOV, okay, MUL, multiply. So MVN, move negative. Okay, move not of the data. Okay, negative. NEG, like that. Okay. So next is SXTB, sign extend byte, sign extend half word, so unsigned extend byte, unsigned extend half word. Okay, we shall see that what are those later. For timing, remember these. See, and these are here 16-bit instructions, data processing instructions. These are 16-bit versions. So whatever these ADC, ADD that we discussed, they are 16-bit instructions because thumb 2 contains both 16-bit and 32-bit instructions, correct? So these are all 16-bit instructions. So next you can see 16-bit branch instructions. See, branch is used to change the instruction flow. So we saw that example here. Okay, so previously in 8081, you can see here 8051. So call wait, correct? So it is a branch instruction, unconditional branch. So you are calling or you are trying to jump from this location to some other location direct. So this DJNZ, it is a branch instruction. Okay, you are trying to jump to a particular location like that. Okay, so these are all the branch instructions. So B means direct branch. So B with condition, some condition. That is, which are the conditions? Equal, not equal, less than, greater than. So those suffixes we saw. Okay. So BL, so branch with link. Okay, branch with link register. That means, okay, so we shall see that later. Next, branch with link and exchange. BLX. So next, BX means branch with exchange of state. Okay. So next, CBZ, compare and branch if 0. So next, CBNZ, compare and branch if no 0, not 0. Okay. Next, IT means if then instruction. We shall see that later. Okay. So these are all 16-bit versions. So next is 16-bit load and store. We shall see this. Okay.